Well, I'm deeply honored to be here, and I want to thank Greg, and I also want to thank Robin for being one of the main protagonists advocating my coming here, as well as the directors of this great botanical gardens. I'm going to give you what I call an immersion lecture. This is really important to me personally. I'm going to be showing some things that I haven't shown anyone else ever before. Our research has a mycelial momentum about it right now, which is really validating. A lot of my hypotheses are now founded as theories. They're well substantiated by fact. But the more that I studied the subject, the more I realized how much we didn't know and how much there is to know. And literally many of these solutions exist under our feet. So this is going to be about an hour and a half talk. I have a big surprise at the end, which I'm really delighted to share with this group, and in particular, botanists and physicians. You know, we have these semi-permeable membranes called skin, and I'm Paul Stamets, but I'm a microbiome of more than 100 trillion bacterial cells with about 10 trillion human cells. Well, that sort of permeability of the microbiome, it goes into nature. So we're all living within the context of that. And because you're in this room with me now, and because I'm a mycologist as well as Greg, we have carried all sorts of spores of fungi, and we have cross-sporulated, I don't want to say contaminated, because all of you here, so you are actually becoming mushroom missionaries as you leave this room, spreading germplasm, you know, throughout the cosmos. So a lot of you are wondering probably about my hat. It's my favorite hat, you know, and I think it makes me rather handsome. And this hat comes from this mushroom called amadou. Amadou is a birch polypore. The Latin name is called Fomes fomentarius. And this mushroom literally is responsible for helping humans survive. You know, not too long ago, the firekeeper of our clan was essential for the clan's survival. You can hollow this mushroom out, put embers of the fire inside, and carry fire for days. It allowed for the portability of fire. Now, when you boil this mushroom, it delaminates into mycelium, and this hat is made from this wood conch, which means also that this hat is highly flammable. So someone smoking a cigarette, or in Washington State, we can say a joint, woof, and I've had one hat catch on fire from somebody flicking their ember. I was wondering, what is that smoke coming from? But this also allowed for revolutionized warfare, because in the Napoleonic times, there was a big trade of this mushroom because it allowed flint spark guns to work. Moreover, this mushroom was used by beekeepers for centuries because they could smoke the hives. And this mushroom was the first source of an antiviral ever discovered from a mushroom, active against the tobacco mosaic virus. So this, I think, speaks to several things that I think are really important. Shamanistically, mushrooms, plants, animals became spiritually important because of a confluence of multiple attributes. We have many examples of that. The birch tree, for instance, and this mushroom sports, the birch trees come from this mushroom, mushrooms come from the birch tree. So, but I think this thread of knowledge we have going back in time is very tenuous. And because of disease, political strife, wars, famine, those threads of knowledge have been broken. And it's really amazing that we are here today. But this is one example, I think, of many other examples, you know, that we have in nature of a long use and history of mushrooms. Now, these wood conchs are more perennial. They grow for several years. Most mushrooms are in your viewscape for just a few days. I saw Copranus ashamentarius fruiting here on the ground, several other mushrooms. They're up and gone in 4 or 5 days. Now, when you think about that, mushrooms are very powerful. They're like miniature pharmaceutical factories. Some of them can feed you, some can kill you, some can heal you, some can get you high and send you on a spiritual journey. But the fact that in your visual landscape for such a short period of time compared to plants and animals, where you are experiencing them on a daily basis for months, years, the body intellect of our cultural knowledge of plants and animals is far more vast than of something that is so temporary. And it's human nature to avoid something that is so powerful, but you don't understand well. And so this is why the lag of knowledge is just beginning to catch up with the other sciences in the field of mycology. So I want to introduce another friend of mine. And this is agarikon, the longest living mushroom in the world. It grows exclusively in the old-growth forests of the Pacific Northwest, Northern California, Oregon, Washington, and British Columbia. It used to be quite common in Europe until they cut down the old-growth forests. Now it exists on a few sky islands in Austria and Slovenia in the Alps. But this mushroom is about 38 years of age. It was first reported by Dioscorides in 65 AD, the father of Western medicine, as elixirium ad longum vitam, the elixir of long life. And I present to you, and I will make the case that I believe agarikon holds within it very powerful potential remedies that will be as significant as Amadou was in carrying fire to help humans survive. And so I'm going to take you on a mycological journey. Brace for impact. So here we go. I believe that the future is far brighter if we follow the path of mycelium, and I call this mycelial Earth. But the subject of my talk is biodiversity is biosecurity. I really believe that we have gotten here today because of very smart choices on the evolutionary path. And we are now entered into 6X, the sixth greatest extinction event known in the history of life on this planet. But this extinction event is not caused by an asteroid impact. It's caused by an organism. It's caused by us. Not only are we the cause of this extinction event, but we're likely to be its victim. So what can we do about this? Well, we can take some lessons from evolution, how to navigate through extinction events. And I think fungi play a very important role. I'm greatly honored to be one of the invention ambassadors of AAAS. As Greg mentioned, it's the most prestigious scientific organization in the world. They publish Science magazine, started by Thomas Edison. I got this recommendation, one day before deadline, and I just had written a short chapter in a new book I'm writing, How to Better Survive 6X. And when I got the application notice, I thought it was just an advertisement or something, and you've been nominated, but I have to submit by the next day an 8-page thesis. And so I auto-filled with autochrome. So I was able to attach the chapter and I sent it away. And then I went through a gauntlet of peer review, and then I had long interviews, and part of my mission is to bridge the communication of science for the public interest. Also to help scientists not be exploited and ripped off by corporations, which unfortunately many of them are. So I was really excited to get this award. Now I grew up in a small town in Ohio, near Columbiana, Ohio, and we have a fairly large house, but it had a fully equipped laboratory in the basement. Literally 3 rows of chemicals. I'm the youngest one in my family, and it was 5 children. My brother John, was in charge of the laboratory. So having the younger brother in the laboratory was a nuisance to him. He was always like pushing me away, and I wanted to go in to find experiments that said, danger, do not bring near flame. I could blow things up. So he banned me from the laboratory, but he let me use the radio. Now, my father was on the aircraft carrier, the Intrepid, and he got the Intrepid aircraft carrier radio from World War II, and we had it in our basement. And so I was putting in these huge cathode ray tube wave banks, listening to his quoted messages behind the Iron Curtain. It was just like so cool, to be able to do this. But my brother John, eventually he went to Yale. My brother Bill went to Cornell, and they abandoned the laboratory for me to exploit. And so I had a lot of fun. I almost blew up the house on one particular occasion. My mother came screaming, running downstairs. I said, "Don't come in there." So. But I was impassioned and so in love with science and having my own laboratory and doing my own experiments that I always dreamt that I would, have my own laboratory complex. And indeed, I'm living my dream now. We have a nice laboratory complex outside of Olympia, Washington. We generate 20,000 to 40,000 kilos of living mycelium per week. So we have mycelial tsunamis going on in the ecosystem. So when I got this award, I thought, my brother John was always critical. Well, you're into mushrooms, how serious is that? And actually, John's adventures in Colombia and Mexico, coming back with magic mushrooms, really got me inspired. So again, I was an all too impressionable 13-year-old when I heard these stories. And so I got because AAAS, vetted me, and I thought, okay, John, I can prove it to you now. So I called my brother John up. I got really excited, and now I got vetted by the most prestigious scientific organization in the world. And I sent him a copy of the announcement, and I fully expected to get a return phone call. And I waited, and I couldn't contact him. And that was the day they discovered my brother John's body. John Stamets died from cardiac arrest on the day that I got this award. And so for the next year, I'm dedicating all my talks to my brother John. He first inspired me to get into science, and because of his mentorship and his tough encouragement, I'm here today speaking to you. So this is to you, John. So.